Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving right into a topic that's probably on a lot of people's minds right now.
Yeah.
It seems like everywhere you turn, there's something about AI and, you know,
Yeah.
how it's going to impact the future of work.
Mhm.
And, there's a lot of excitement about it, but there's also some anxiety. People are worried about their jobs
Right.
and all that. So for you, our listener, you're the learner.
Yeah.
And, you want to cut through all the noise and really understand what's going on. We
Exactly.
pulled together some really interesting insights from some recent articles, one in Forbes and one in ELVTR.
Okay.
Both are looking at the future of jobs in the age of AI.
Yeah.
Our goal in this deep dive is to kind of go beyond the hype
Yeah.
and get to the practical realities of how AI is going to impact our jobs.
Right.
Is it really going to be as dramatic as some people are saying?
Yeah, is it all doom and gloom, or
Yeah,
is there
exactly.
some opportunity here?
Yeah, what's realistic and what's maybe just speculation.
Mm-mm.
So, and it's a big deal, right? I mean, it's not just, idle chatter.
Yeah.
There's some serious financial projections tied to this,
Oh yeah.
which is one of the reasons it's such a hot topic.
It's a huge topic, and yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, just to put some numbers on it,
Yeah.
Forbes is highlighting that AI is predicted to add something like $15.7 trillion
Wow.
to the global GDP by 2030.
That's an insane number.
It's a massive number, and ELVTR is pointing out that the AI market itself is expected to go from $1 billion in 2022 to almost $2 trillion
Oh,
by 2030.
that's a
That's
huge,
huge growth. That's
yeah.
a really, really big deal.
Yeah. And that really underscores why everyone is paying so much attention to this.
Mm-hmm.
So the big question that we want to get to the bottom of is AI really going to take over jobs
Right.
and lead to mass unemployment?
Yeah.
Or is it going to mostly create new kinds of work and, help us to do our current jobs better?
Right.
So that's the core of what we're going to kind of unpack today.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so let's start with some of the basics.
Okay.
The articles that we looked at both emphasize that there are kind of two key ways that AI is going to impact employment,
Mm-hmm.
and that is automation and augmentation.
Yeah.
So can you kind of explain the difference between those two for
Yeah.
us?
Sure. So automation, as Forbes is describing it, is basically AI taking over, repetitive tasks,
Mm-hmm.
the routine stuff,
Right.
Things like entering data into spreadsheets,
Yeah.
or maybe like simple customer inquiries, like the basic level chatbot kind of stuff.
Right.
And McKinsey, who's actually quoted in the Forbes article, estimates that up to 45% of current work activities
Wow.
could be automated.
That's a big chunk.
It is. I mean, that's almost half. So
Yeah.
so that's a significant number. And I think, the point here is it's the stuff that we as humans we may find less engaging.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily using our highest skills.
Yeah. And maybe not the best use of our time either.
Exactly.
Okay, so then on the flip side of that, we have augmentation.
Mm-hmm.
So how is AI being used or, projected to be used to
Uh-huh.
kind of augment
Right.
human capabilities?
Yeah. So this is where AI becomes a tool
Hmm.
that helps us do more complex tasks more effectively.
Right.
So Forbes has some good examples of this.
Yeah.
Think about healthcare professionals who are using AI to analyze medical images.
Mhm.
And, it can do that much faster than a human can
Right.
with really, really high accuracy,
Yeah.
which helps them make diagnoses and treatment decisions more effectively.
Right.
Or, lawyers using AI to sift through tons and tons of documents to pull out the key information.
Right.
So, in these cases, AI isn't replacing the human.
Right.
It's making them more efficient. It's giving them more powerful tools to do their job.
Yeah, so it's less about the AI taking over and more about it becoming kind of like a super sophisticated assistant.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's like
Oh, yeah.
it's like a really, really smart assistant
Yeah, okay.
that can handle a lot of the heavy lifting,
Right.
but you still need the human there to guide it.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a really important distinction I think for people to kind of grasp as we go through this,
Yeah, definitely.
because it's easy to kind of fall into the trap of thinking, "Oh, the robots are coming for all of our jobs."
Right, right.
But it's much more nuanced than that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's much more about how do we work with this technology,
Right.
and
Okay.
and how does it change the types of jobs that are available.
Okay. So speaking of jobs being displaced versus new jobs being created,
Yeah,
um, that's a big part of the conversation,
of
right?
course.
So what are some of the predictions that we should kind of be aware of in terms of,
Right.
what the overall impact might be?
So, it's easy to get caught up in the fear of job losses. And for sure, some jobs are going to go away.
Right.
But what's interesting is the World Economic Forum actually predicts that while around 85 million jobs globally might be displaced by AI
Okay.
by 2025, they also project that 97 million new jobs will be created.
So more jobs created than lost.
Exactly.
it.
So it's not so much about,
Hmm.
net loss of employment as it is a massive shift
Okay.
in where those jobs are and what skills they require.
So a reshuffling, not necessarily a decline.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's a reshuffling.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a really crucial point for the learner to kind of understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's not like, oh, all the jobs are going to disappear.
No,
It's that the landscape is going to look really different.
it's going to look different. Yeah.
And ELVTR makes an interesting comparison to the Industrial Revolution,
Yeah.
which we all kind of, learn about in history class.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So during the Industrial Revolution, obviously, the introduction of machinery
Mm-hmm.
led to a lot of people losing their traditional jobs.
Right.
Craftspeople and laborers.
Yeah.
But what ELVTR reminds us is that it also led to a boom in new industries
Okay.
and the creation of jobs that literally didn't exist before.
Right.
So, people who were building and operating and
Yeah.
maintaining those machines,
Yeah.
all of those jobs were brand new.
Right.
So I think that's a helpful analogy,
Yeah.
because just like people had to adapt then by learning new skills,
Right.
the same is likely to be true now.
Yeah, that's a really helpful historical perspective, I
Mm.
think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's dig into some of the specifics about,
Okay.
types of jobs and how they might be impacted.
Sure.
ELVTR has a really interesting section about, the jobs that they think are less likely to be
Right.
completely taken over by AI.
Right.
So that, these are kind of the more resilient roles.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the categories that they're highlighting there?
So one of the big ones is what they call strategical jobs.
Okay.
So think managers and strategists.
Mm-hmm.
And while AI can definitely provide a ton of data and analysis,
Right.
to inform decisions, the human element of big picture thinking,
Yeah.
creative problem solving, that's still seen as being really critical.
Oh,
AI can give you the information,
Right.
but it's still the human who needs to interpret it and make those strategic calls.
Right. So you still need that human brain to
Yeah.
be able to synthesize and
It-
kind of apply the information strategically.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. What are some of the other types of jobs that ELVTR sees as kind of
Okay, so another big one is jobs that require empathy and emotional intelligence. So they talk a lot about psychologists and psychotherapists, and really the idea is that, AI doesn't have that nuanced understanding of human emotions,
Right.
and it can't really form those genuine relationships.
Right.
that are so important in those professions?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they don't really see AI replacing those kinds of roles anytime soon.
Okay, that's reassuring, I think, for people who are in those fields.
Mm-hmm.
What about the legal profession?
So lawyers are an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, AI can be a really powerful tool for things like reviewing documents,
Mm-hmm.
finding information.
Yeah.
But ELVTR really stresses that AI struggles with the more complex aspects of the law.
Okay.
Things like interpreting legal precedents,
Yeah.
applying legal principles to new situations,
Right.
critical thinking,
Yeah.
persuasion,
Hmm.
empathy with clients,
Right.
creative problem solving.
Yeah. All those sort of soft skills almost.
Right.
That are so critical to being a good lawyer.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not that AI is going to replace lawyers,
Right.
but it's that it's going to change.
It's going to change the way they work.
Yeah, how they work, yeah.
For sure. Are there any other kind of broad categories that they highlight?
Yeah, they also talk about politicians,
Politicians. Okay.
which is kind of interesting. And
Yep.
their point there is that,
right.
effective politicians really need to understand and respond to the needs of their constituents
Right.
and their values.
Yeah.
And AI, at least in its current form, can't really do that.
Yeah.
So that human connection, that
Yeah.
ability to build trust and represent a community,
Yeah.
they see that as being indispensable.
Okay. That's a really interesting perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the last one that they mention is chefs and confectioners,
Right.
which is maybe a little bit of a
Yeah, a little unexpected.
Yeah.
But their point there is that,
Yeah.
those roles really rely on creativity and intuition,
Right.
in understanding flavors,
Mm-hmm.
adapting recipes,
Yeah.
catering to individual tastes.
Right.
And that's just not something that AI can do,
Right.
at least not yet.
Yeah, it's about artistry. Okay, so the common thread I'm hearing through all of these is that
Yeah.
it's really those human skills,
Mm-hmm.
the complex reasoning,
Right.
the emotional intelligence,
Yeah,
the creativity that
definitely.
are going to be kind of the most resilient in the face of AI.
The things that make us uniquely human. I
Exactly.
think that's what it comes down to.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about not just jobs being replaced,
Mm-hmm.
but also, how work processes might be transformed by AI,
Yeah.
even in jobs that aren't necessarily going to completely disappear.
Right, right.
So ELVTR has a whole section on this.
They do.
Um, what are some of the key changes that they kind of foresee happening?
So one of the big ones is human resource management.
Okay.
And they point out that AI is already being used to screen job applications,
Yeah.
much more efficiently than humans can.
Mhm.
And they expect to see AI playing a bigger role in things like tracking employee performance,
Right.
identifying skill gaps, and even drafting HR documents.
So a lot of the administrative stuff
Exactly, a lot of the admin stuff.
could potentially be handled by AI.
Yeah, and that frees up the HR professionals to
Yeah.
focus on more strategic work.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What else?
So another big area is just general task automation.
Okay.
We're already seeing AI tools like ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
being able to generate text
Yeah.
and write basic code.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It is. It's pretty amazing. And so ELVTR expects to see more of this,
Right.
AI taking over tasks like,
Yeah.
drafting reports,
Yeah.
writing marketing copy,
Mhm.
creating those first drafts of things
Right.
that humans can then refine.
Okay.
And they also see AI getting better and better at
Yeah.
categorizing and summarizing data.
Okay, so that could really impact a lot of different sectors.
Huge impact across all kinds of industries, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So is there anything else that they highlight in terms of how work processes might change?
Yeah, so they talk about workplace optimization.
Okay.
We're already seeing a lot of smart devices, AI-powered things in the workplace, and they
Yeah.
expect that to continue
Okay.
and potentially lead to,
Yeah.
more efficient resource management,
Hmm.
more personalized work environments.
Interesting.
And then the last thing they touch on is training and education.
Okay.
So they see AI being used to personalize learning paths, provide feedback,
Yeah.
and really tailor the training experience
Right.
to the needs of the individual.
Okay. So it sounds like AI is really poised to touch pretty much every aspect of our professional lives,
It really does, yeah.
even if it's not always about, completely replacing jobs.
Right, it's going to be woven into the fabric of how we work.
Okay. So let's look at the flip side of that now.
Okay.
The specific jobs and tasks that ELVTR thinks are likely to be replaced or significantly altered by AI. So where do they see the most significant changes happening?
So one of the big ones is customer support.
Yeah.
We've all interacted with those basic chatbots,
Right.
but they expect AI to become much more sophisticated,
Yeah.
able to understand natural language, resolve more complex issues.
Yeah.
So they definitely see the potential for,
Right.
reducing the need for large customer service teams.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about jobs that involve a lot of data analysis?
Yeah, so analytical jobs are another area where they see big changes.
Right.
A lot of these roles involve gathering and analyzing data, things that AI is really good at.
Right.
So, fields like financial analysis,
Yeah.
market research, they see AI having a big impact there.
And it makes sense. AI can process that information
Yeah, way faster.
so much faster and probably identify patterns that
Yeah.
we wouldn't even see.
Right.
What about things like logistics and delivery services?
Yeah.
It seems like AI is already
Oh, huge impact there.
having an impact there. Yeah.
Yeah, ELVTR talks a lot about the use of robots and drones for delivery.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, beyond just the physical delivery, they see AI being used to optimize routes, predict demand,
Right.
automate customer communication,
Wow.
even fraud detection within the delivery network.
So it's really kind of an overhaul.
Yeah, full AI-powered overhaul of that whole process.
Wow. Okay. What about more traditional kind of administrative roles like accounting?
So accounting is interesting.
Yeah.
They definitely see AI being able to automate a lot of the routine bookkeeping tasks, data entry, reconciliation.
Right.
But they also emphasize that human accountants will
Yeah.
still be needed for things like interpreting the data,
Okay.
strategic financial planning, and maintaining that element of trust.
Right.
So it might be more of a shift towards advisory roles.
Okay, interesting. What about the world of financial trading?
Trading is another one where AI is expected to have a huge impact.
Okay.
It's already heavily reliant on algorithms,
Right.
but they see AI being able to analyze market data in real time, assess risks,
Okay.
identify trends,
Wow.
execute trades automatically.
So it could really change the game.
It really could, yeah.
What about the education sector?
So education is another area that's undergoing a lot of change, and ELVTR touches on the shift towards online learning, and they see AI playing a role there.
Yeah.
In terms of personalizing learning experiences,
Mm-hmm.
providing feedback,
Yeah.
identifying areas where students need help.
So really kind of tailoring the education to the individual.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Let's talk about some of the maybe more creative and technical fields.
Okay.
What does ELVTR say about the future of coding?
So coding is really fascinating.
Yeah.
Because there are AI tools that can already generate and debug code.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. It really is. And it's a little scary for coders, I think. But what they emphasize is that the AI's capabilities are still pretty limited.
Okay.
It's mostly based on existing code and patterns. So for really complex and innovative software solutions, you still need human programmers who can understand the bigger picture, troubleshoot issues, think creatively.
So AI can maybe help with some of the more basic tasks.
Yeah, like the grunt work almost.
Right.
But it's not going to replace human programmers altogether.
Okay, that's reassuring for the coders out there.
Yeah, for now.
Right.
We'll see what happens in the future, but for now, I think they're safe.
Yeah, okay. What about visual arts, things like graphic design?
Yeah.
Is AI going to replace graphic designers?
Well, that's a good question.
Right.
ELVTR talks about these AI image generation tools.
Right, like DLE and all those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can give them a text prompt and they can create an image.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's really amazing. And it's getting more and more sophisticated.
Yeah.
But I think they still see a need for that human vision, that human creativity.
Right, so it's kind of like AI can be a tool for the graphic designer, but it's not going to replace...
It's not going to replace the human.
Yeah, okay. And what about the written word?
Okay.
Fields like writing and journalism and advertising.
So this is another area where AI is making big strides.
Yeah.
ELVTR even mentions examples like CNET using AI to generate articles.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So AI can definitely create text, and it can do it very quickly.
Right.
But they really stress that you still need humans for fact-checking, for ensuring accuracy, for providing analysis and context.
Yeah, so kind of that higher level thinking.
Exactly.
That the AI isn't capable of yet.
Right.
Okay, so then lastly, what about something like transcription?
Transcription seems like a prime candidate for automation.
Yeah.
I mean, those AI-powered transcription tools are getting really good.
Right.
Very accurate.
Yeah.
And they can do it much faster than a human can.
Yeah. So it seems like that's probably a field.
Yeah, that's definitely a field where we're going to see a decline in demand for humans.
Okay, so it sounds like there's going to be a lot of upheaval across a lot of different types of jobs.
Definitely.
But as we talked about earlier, it's not just about jobs disappearing.
Right.
It's also about new jobs emerging. So ELVTR also highlights a bunch of jobs that they think are going to be in demand specifically because of AI.
Right.
So what are some of the roles that they're talking about there?
So obviously, developing and implementing AI systems is going to create a lot of new jobs.
Right.
So machine learning and AI engineers, those are going to be really high in demand. These are the people who design and develop and refine the algorithms that power AI.
So the people who are building the AI brains, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. What other kinds of roles do they see emerging?
So DevOps professionals are also going to be really important.
Oh.
These are the people who kind of bridge the gap between development and IT operations. They're the ones who make sure that the AI systems are running smoothly.
Right. So they're kind of the ones who deploy it and manage it.
Exactly.
Okay. And then there's the whole issue of the data that powers AI.
Right. So data sourcing jobs are going to be big.
Okay.
You need people who can find and manage
Hmm.
all that data that the AI needs to learn.
Right. So that's a whole kind of new area of expertise.
Yeah, it's a huge area.
Okay. And then once you have the data, you need people to kind of prepare it.
Exactly. So you need data annotation specialists.
Okay.
These are the people who label the data
Hmm.
and organize it.
So the AI can make sense of it.
Right. They're basically teaching the AI
Yeah.
what the data means.
That's wild.
It is. It's really interesting.
Okay. And then, of course, you need people to analyze all that data.
Of course. So data scientists are going to be crucial.
Hmm.
These are the people who can find the insights
Yeah.
and trends in the data.
Okay. And then the people who kind of make sure that the data is stored properly.
Right. So big data engineers are going to be in high demand.
Okay.
They're the ones who design and maintain the
Right.
systems that handle all that data.
And then on the business side of things,
Right.
LVTR also talks about
Mm-hmm.
the need for people who can kind of bridge the gap between the data.
Exactly. So you're going to have business intelligence developers
Mhm.
who create the applications that are used to store and analyze data.
Okay.
And then you'll have business development managers
Right.
who oversee the whole business intelligence strategy.
So making sure that the data is actually being used
Right. Making sure it's being used effectively.
to make good decisions.
Mhm.
So it's really interesting to see how,
Yeah.
while AI is automating certain tasks,
Mm-hmm.
it's also creating this whole new demand
Right.
for specialized human skills.
A whole new set of jobs.
Yeah. Okay. So we're getting close to the end of our deep dive here.
Okay.
But I want to kind of touch on one more thing from the Ford's article.
Sure.
Bernard Marr talks about two kind of potential futures
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to AI's impact on jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of remind us what those two scenarios are?
Yeah, so he lays out this optimistic future where AI takes over a lot of the mundane tasks
Okay.
and frees up humans to focus on more creative and strategic work.
Mm-hmm.
And in that scenario,
Right.
productivity goes up, people are happier.
Yeah, it's kind of a utopian vision.
It's a very rosy picture, yeah.
Yeah. But then he also presents kind of the opposite.
Right, so the pessimistic scenario is that widespread automation leads to mass unemployment,
Right.
increased inequality,
Mm-hmm.
and social unrest.
Yeah. That's a much more dystopian vision.
It is. It's much darker.
Yeah. So what does he think is the most likely outcome?
Well, he doesn't really think it's going to be either extreme.
Okay,
He
yeah.
thinks the reality is probably somewhere in between.
Right.
But he really emphasizes that the
Yeah.
choices that we make now as businesses,
Mhm.
as governments, as individuals,
Yeah.
those choices are going to shape which way it goes.
So it's not predetermined.
It's not predetermined. We have agency here.
That's actually kind of empowering in a way.
It is. It's not just,
Yeah.
fate. We can actually influence this.
Okay, so what are some of the things that he suggests companies and governments should be doing to kind of navigate this transition responsibly?
So he really stresses that companies need to think about the social implications of automation.
Okay.
It's not just about saving money. It's about what happens to their employees.
Right, yeah.
So he thinks companies should be investing in retraining programs
Hmm.
to help their workers adapt.
Yeah.
And governments have a role to play too.
Right.
Creating legislation, providing safety nets,
Mhm.
investing in education and training.
Okay, so kind of a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah, everyone needs to be involved.
And what about the individual? So the learner who's
Yeah.
listening to this right now,
Mm-hmm.
what are some steps that we can be taking?
So the big thing is to be proactive.